I'm now joined by Mississauga Steelheads head coach and general manager James Richmond. JR, it's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Of course, it was a very eventful season, but of course, there are more things bigger than hockey. Hopefully it's okay to ask, how are you and the family doing after an extremely busy season?
Yeah, it's well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's going okay. It's my kids are doing well and my wife's battling and she's gonna keep battling and we'll see how it all goes. And the Dodgers at Sunnybrook have been amazing, so we'll just keep on going and being positive. So it's all good.
Absolutely, that's very good to hear. And of course, I can speak for myself. Of course, I wish the best for your kids, and of course, and your wife as she's battling through that. I
Thank
know
you.
in terms of recent business occurring in the hockey club, rookie camp just occurred, and following what was a pretty interesting draft to say the least. How was the 2023 rookie camp to you? How are the new prospects looking so far?
Yeah, it was a fun weekend. The Saturday we had everybody in. We had 35 kids in. We had our draft class from last year, '06. We had a couple of '05 still here, and the whole '07 class, the entire '07 class. And we had a bunch of we had 11 free agents in, so 35 in total. Saturday was kind of a meet and greet, a couple of meetings with everybody, and then on the ice for everybody. So it was an hour and a half each group, two groups, and then the Sunday we had a good blue and white game, and it was a close game where blue won 4-2 with an empty netter. So it was a good game, good weekend.
And one of the players at the rookie camp was goaltender Jack Ivankovic, who the organization just recently took in the 2023 priority selection, seventh overall. Of course, he was the first goalie taken. He's a Mississauga native. And I'm curious to ask, especially with the tandem that you had this past season with Ryerson Leanders, and I think it's fair to say that he broke out is probably an understatement with the season he had for a 16-year-old goalie, and of course Alessio Beglieri, who put up a fine season in terms of a European goalie making that transition to North American, making that transition to North American hockey. Was taking Jack a case of taking the best player available at that slot, or would you say that was made in corresponds to a move where maybe a guy like Alessio, who takes up an import pick, may not return next year?
It's actually a combination of both, and a very big point would be Ryerson Leander's development. He 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 was unbelievable for us this year as a 16-year-old. So we had to make a decision: do we want to continue on the path with an older goalie and Ryerson kind of in the backup role, in that development role, or do we see Ryerson being a guy that can maybe take the next step and log more games? And it's a little bit it's a little bit different than most teams go about it. But talking with Chris Beckford Sue and our goalie coach, and talking with the other staff members, we think that Ryerson is ready to take that next step. And then having Jack on the board where he was, and what he's done in minor hockey and all the way up, he's by far and away the top goalie at the '07 age group. It really sets up our organization very, very well for the next 3 years, 4 years, with having two really high end goalies that we can turn to. Teams that go on deep runs in playoffs and win championships have to have goaltending. And now we've got two guys that we believe are going to be great goalies in this league.
Absolutely. And in terms of high-end goaltending, I imagine the potential is huge with those two guys. Of course, Ryerson with the season he had, and of course Jack putting up the numbers he did with the Mississauga Senators. Very much, of course, I wouldn't say carry, but very much being able to steal games for them at the in the GTHL level.
Yeah, so Jack was a goalie that we've been watching for a couple of years now. Well, everybody has, and there's no question that he steals games for his team. Um, he gives them a chance to win every single game he's in there. His performance at the Canada Games this past winter or spring for Team Ontario, where they won the gold medal, was extraordinary. And then to watch him do what he did for his U16 team, the Mississauga Senators, was pretty amazing. Having the Senators play out of our building, and we got to see them quite a bit, we saw what he can do. So it came down to the fact that there's no question he was the best goaltender out there. We could not pick the best forward in the draft. We could not pick the best defenseman in the draft. And we thought, well, we've got a real good young goalie in Leenders. Is he ready to take the next step? If he's not, then we'll go out and we'll get an older goalie, or maybe Alessio comes back, or an NHL team gives us an older guy, and Ryerson continues to kind of play that B role and kind of develop that way. But we just think he's ready, and we really like what Jack brings, and now we've got two. Jack's going to push leaners this year. There's no question about it, and it'll be fun to watch the two of them in Mississauga for the next few years.
For sure, and finishing up on the topic of Jack Ivankovic, it was only well as you and I are talking right now, it was only just officially announced by the hockey club yesterday that he is officially committed to the team, signing a standard player agreement. Alongside him, are there any other players from this past draft that have committed to the organization as of right now?
Yeah, so Jag is signed, and the announcements for the other players will be in the next few days. But I'm sure that our two second round picks, Kieran and Luke, will be announced shortly. But we've got guys that really want to be playing in Mississauga. It's fun to be a Steelhead right now. It has changed quite a bit since my first couple of years here. So it's fun to watch the development. It's fun to watch guys get excited about being a Steelhead now. So yeah, I mean, we'll have some announcements throughout the next little while, but we plan on signing a few of them.
And just going off of what you just said in terms of in terms of the difference of your first couple of years, would you say would you say there was there currently is a 180 in terms of players wanting to play for this team in comparison to when you first took over?
100%. We have a lot more players that have us at or near the top of their list of teams that they want to play for. Obviously, to play in the OHL is an honor, and I think you should be pretty ecstatic to go to any number of clubs in our league, because it is the premier developmental league in the world. We've got a lot of great organizations, and we are happy to be thought of as one of the top ones now.
Fair enough. And as we're talking now, the drafts, well, the U18 draft just recently finished up. You just had rookie camp. I think it's fair to say that we're very much in the off season. Of course, for you, there is no such thing as an off season, but in terms of how things are, but in terms of things, yeah, in terms of how things are for anyone except for the head coach or general manager of an OHL team, it is very much the off season. And I think it's fair to say a very eventful off season for you. Of course, going into the year, the team was ranked as one of the top teams in the CHL in terms of rosters or in terms of predictions. And then of course later on you then moved on from multiple big pieces. With that in mind, what are your thoughts and takeaways, good or bad, on this past season?
So yeah, it's kind of a roller coaster ride, to be quite honest. But I remember speaking with one of the NHL GMs, and he said to me, he said, "JR, look, you can have a 5-year plan, and that 5-year plan could change in 5 minutes, depending on the how your players play and different things, injuries, and all the different things that happen throughout a season." So I think that we had a super start. We felt good about ourselves. Lesio was really playing well, and then things started to go a little bit sideways with the way we were playing. And then we decided as an organization that we didn't have a lot of draft capital, you know, behind us to go add the necessary pieces that we needed to add to make a serious run at winning a championship. So we made a decision to try to get better right away, as opposed to going out and buying something and then having nothing left to rebuild. So, well, it was really tough to see the guys leave. Del Bell and Del Mastro playing very well for Sarnia right now, and Owen Beck playing great hockey for Peterborough. We think that the pieces that we brought in, um, not just the picks that everybody looks at in junior hockey, but the players and the individuals that we brought in set us up, and we're already rebuilt, and now we're gonna hit the ground running in the fall. So I think the second half of the year after the deadline, I thought the guys really came together, played well for a young group. I mean, we had 5 16-year-olds starting in our lineup in the playoffs, so that's unheard of. We had a 16-year-old playing in net, which is unheard of. So I think they all got great experience, and will be better for it next year.
Absolutely, and I think it's and I would like to say it's fair, but the playoff series you had with North Bay, you very much gave them a run for your money. I would say in terms of consistent effort, taking it as far as you did, because of course the goaltender on North Bay, he's one of the best goalies in the league, bar none, and of course they're playing
Yeah,
Peterborough as they are right now, but of course, a guy like Porter Martone putting up the performance he did, him and Angus MacDonnell, to say that they have chemistry, I think is pretty fair to say, wouldn't you say? Just based on the playoff series that just happened with you guys.
yeah. So I think the playoff series, North Bay really took it to us in two of those games. I think in two of the other games that we lost, um, I think we looked young and we made some careless mistakes. But that's what happens when you have a real young group. We were the youngest team in the playoffs, and the two games that we won, I think we really took it to them, and we took it to a real good hockey team in North Bay. They're older, they're heavier, they're stronger, and we beat them in two of those games. So um, obviously, as a coach, as a hockey guy, you're never satisfied with losing. But boy, oh boy, I was pretty proud of our young group of what they did in the playoffs, and obviously Porter and Angus uh, probably are two best forwards throughout the playoffs, and that's saying something, seeing as one's in '06 and one's in '05. But it's not just us seeing it, because they were just part of the U18 Team Canada team, and Porter Martone was an underager on that team and did very well. By the end of the U18 tournament in Switzerland, Angus MacDonnell was moved up to basically a second line center role. I mean, he's already being used in special teams on PK and whatnot, and 5-on-5 crucial situations. Porter Martone, I mean, if you saw one of his goals, it was a highlight reel goal. Um, those two guys are going to be a big part of our future.
And just finishing up on the whole talk of moving on from those big pieces of course I imagine moving those players weren't wasn't the easiest thing, just based on what they brought to the team and the talent that they had. But getting Martone, McDonnell, and even of course Jack Van Volsen, who is a top draft pick in his draft class, and possesses a very heavy shot. I imagine being able to get those guys and picks, like you said, to get that draft capital must have made the process a bit easier.
Um, yes and no. I mean, we lost those good players in Owen and Delhi and Del Bell. But more than that, we lost three really great kids, and I know that it's a business, but a lot of times in Mississauga, we don't look at it as a business. And those three guys mean a lot to me. Um, I talk to them; they reach out to me. So it was tough to move those guys. So that being said, the pieces we've added in Jack Van Volsen, there's going to be an NHL high NHL pick this up, not this year but next year, and then Angus being in Nashville's draft this year, and then Port Martone being a late birthday going a couple years from now. But we included Dezot and we got Leskovar, and so I mean we added and Zidlicki right before that. We added some really good pieces to our organization. Great people, great character kids. Obviously, what they do on the ice speaks for itself. But we're excited. We're really excited. While we don't like to lose our friends and good people and good players, that's something that I think we had to do for the organization to be really strong, not just this upcoming year, but for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So it was tough, but I think it's been best for our organization.
And of course, Sally, with the way the OHL is and the overager rule, of course, you also had to say goodbye to three huge pieces of the organization. Of course, James Hardy, Casper Larson, and Charlie Callahan. Just to speak a bit about what those three guys have done, not only for the team, but just for the locker room and just for the organization itself. I'm curious to ask you that, JR.
Yeah. So with Casper, it's a little bit of a it's always bittersweet, but Casper, obviously, with my background playing and living over there in Denmark, I knew who he was and where he was coming from, and his time in Mississauga was cut short because of COVID. But he was a big, steady, strong defenseman for us that hopefully catches on with an NHL team in camp in the fall. So big personality. His teammates really, really, really liked him. So it'll be tough filling his shoes. With James Hardy, I mean, what do you say? I mean, how many records? I don't know how many records he set. And that's missing a whole season due to COVID. So James Hardy was a former first round pick that we felt would score a bunch at our level and help us win, and I think he did that. Great character, kid, super family, and he'll be a steelhead for life. And he was one of the guys at the deadline we'd spoken to, and there were some teams interested, but he wanted to stay. He wanted to stay and try to make a run with it here in Mississauga, and he did a great job. So nobody's going to fill his shoes right away. With Chucky, with Charlie Callahan, I think an 8th-round pick, made our team right out of camp when everybody thought there was no way he could play a game in the OHL. Not only did he play a game, he was with us for 5 seasons, ended up being one of our co-captains, a big, strong leader in the dressing room, a great player on the ice. If you watch his development from a 16-year-old to when he's leaving us, I don't know if there was a bigger curve than what Charlie has shown. So again, wonderful person, great family, and yeah, we're gonna miss them tons. So, but hopefully, and I'm pretty positive this has happened, is that they've been able to leave their mark on the younger players that were in the room around them, and they'll carry on what those three guys have shown them over their careers.
Absolutely. And as much as it was a year of goodbyes for those three players, it was also a year of firsts, as it was the first full year of Matt Girantano as assistant coach to you. I'm curious to ask, what was the experience like being able to collaborate with him professionally for one full year? And how do you think he fared jumping into the waters that are the Ontario Hockey League?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he did very well. You know, he was a strong defenseman when he played. He played for me years and years ago, and then went on to play some college hockey and some pro hockey, and then he got into coaching, and I followed his coaching career closely. Um, he's worked very well in developing young defensemen, so it was a good time to give him a shot, and he did very well. I know, speaking with some of the defensemen, they really enjoyed working with Matty this year, and he's only going to get better. You know, your first year in the league, it's an eye opener, and I think he got a good taste of it. He did a great job, and it's good to have him coming back in the fall.
And before I ask you my last couple of questions, I just wanted to go back to a question about the drafting process, and specifically, I guess, yeah, about the import draft, because as you said, it's from what you said, sounds like there's going to be two free import picks. Of course, Casper Larson moving on from Alessio Beglieri. Of course, I'm not going to ask you for names or anyone that's on your radar, but in terms of positions, with these import picks, are you looking at guys right now? Do you have a fair idea as to who may be available and who may be willing to commit to make that jump to North America?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in contact with imports since before Christmas, um,
Hmm.
but obviously coming into the second part of the season, you start to look ahead and see where we're at as a team and where we're gonna what we're gonna be adding. Are we gonna be adding one? Are we gonna be adding two? Do we have two spots? That type of thing. So on a weekly, daily basis, we're in contact with people over there, trying to find out. Well, first of all, if a player will come in the fall, as opposed to wait a year and come, or halfway through the year and come. We need somebody in here right away in the fall to help us, and so we yeah, it's I'm on the phone on a daily basis, speaking with guys over there, and watching some players and watching a lot of video of players, and seeing who can fit the best as a steelhead.
Fair enough. And switching gears to you specifically now, I remember one of the last times uh, we talked, I asked you about your contract situation, and of course I'm paraphrasing, but I'm paraphrasing as you said that there was a mutual feeling from yourself and owner Elliot Kerr to continue working together in Mississauga. And as we sit here now, uh, uh, is there a new contract for you set up, signed, and sealed, or are you still having those conversations?
I know I'm still under contract, so I still have a couple of more years left on the
Okay.
on the existing contract. Um, but if Elliot wants to speak about extending it, I'm very open to it. But I think that I it's a great honor for me to coach in Mississauga, um, and I will continue to do so until Elliot says he doesn't want me here. So I think we've done some pretty good things here. I talked to one of the NHL teams the other day, and he brought to light that we have six players playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now, not just on rosters but
Wow.
playing. So it's that's a pretty neat stat to be proud of, and I'm proud of every one of those kids. I'm proud of the kids that are coming up trying to make it in the NHL. And I'm proud of our organization for developing those guys the way we have. So, um, as long as Elliot wants me to be in Mississauga, I'll be in Mississauga.
And lastly, with next season now on the horizon, what is something that you look forward to then, would you say?
I think we're going to go with a smaller camp. than we have in the
Hmm.
past because we've got such a young group. We want to get at it right away. I think there's a few things uh, that we skipped over last year early on with some of the teaching points that we cannot skip over. You cannot take it for granted that the players already understand different things. So we're going to maybe take it a little slower at the start of the season and try to really touch on everything that we can, that we should be touching on for teaching. But I'm excited about this young group. I'm excited about, um, there's always nerves when you talk about goaltending, right? Goaltending is a huge, huge thing. And I think we're set now. I don't think we have to worry about, do we have the goaltending? I think we have the goaltending. Are they young? Yeah, they're young. But maybe we can prove to everyone else that young goalies can be the difference in this league. And I think what Ryerson did this past season speaks for itself. And I think bringing Jack in will really solidify that position up. And I think the forward group we have is is pretty exciting when you look at the Carmeras and Misa and Van Volsen and Martone and Vecchia and McDonnell. I mean, some of the guys that we have coming back, it's pretty exciting. So something that we haven't had before is really strong depth on the right side on the back end. With Sharpie and Von Richter and Harding. I mean, who's the number one right D? I mean, it's when we look at it, they all are, right? So we do have holes on the left side on the back end, and I think we'll add the depth pieces up front. But I'm really excited about how the team is made up right now, and now it's just about bringing everybody together and getting them on the right page and playing for each other.
Fair enough. And with that, those are all my questions. JR, again, always an absolute privilege to talk to you. I appreciate the time. And I wish you the best, of course, with the off season and next season. Hopefully, we'll talk then.
All right, awesome. Thanks for having me. All the best. Have a great summer.
Thank you, you too.